In this video, you're going to learn how to create a color wheel that has primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, just like the one you see here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a circle. Now, you can use a lid if you have one, or a bowl. You want it to be about the size of your hand because you don't want your circle to be too small. And if you have a compass, this is a compass, this is a great tool to use because we're going to want to divide our circle up into 12 sections. Now I'm going to show you how to do it without the compass, but if you have a compass, there's a video in the lesson that shows you how to use this. So we're just going to eyeball it. You definitely want to make a nice clean circle. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the center of your circle, kind of eyeball it. Doesn't have to be exact, but just do the best you can. Okay. And then we're going to draw a line, a horizontal line through that dot that we created. And then a vertical line through the dot again. So we've divided our circle up into 4 sections. Now what we're going to have to do is eyeball some more, and we need to divide each of these sections into thirds, 3 parts. So not half, but 3. So just mark it where you think it's about even in each quarter. And definitely use a pencil because you might want to erase, and you can't erase with pen or Sharpie. Okay, so that looks pretty even. Not quite, but it'll be good enough. So now you want to draw all of your lines to the center. I'm actually just going to cross over. Make sure you cross the center. Super important. We're basically creating a pie. So I realized that was a little off there, so I changed it. And here, once again, I have to adjust a little. Because, like I said, we want to have all of our lines meet the center. If you have to do it once through the center and then adjust like here, you can. There, okay. That's a little uneven. That's okay. And then I'm going to erase these. Okay, that looks pretty decent. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to set up our colors. So it's not random. There's a science to this. And we want to start with our primary colors. So our primary colors are divided evenly in the color wheel. You can see that right here. There's red, there's yellow, and then there's blue. Those are our primaries. So there's always going to be 3 colors between the primaries. So let's start with red. And it doesn't really matter where you start at the top. You can start here or here. I'll start here and write it down. Okay, so that's a primary. So I'm going to write primary. Okay, and then I know I have to hop over 3 of these. 1, 2, 3 to the 4th one. And this is where yellow will be. And then again, I have to hop 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where blue will be. And always write down if it's primary, secondary, or tertiary. Okay, so I should have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 sections in between the primary colors. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the secondary colors. And we know that red and yellow make orange, so orange has to be between red and yellow. And we're going to put orange right here. Okay, so basically we are skipping one on each side of the primaries to get to the secondary orange, right? So we have a spot here and here open. And I'm going to write secondary. Okay, so we're going to move over here, and we know that the primaries blue and yellow make green. So green would be right here. Okay, we have to skip one section on each side. So here is green. And we will write secondary. And then here we have red and blue, and red and blue make violet. And once again, we need to hop over one section and write violet, or as we know, purple. Violet is the correct word. And let's write secondary. Okay, so now we've got the primaries and the secondaries, and we're going to make the tertiary or intermediate colors. So those are pretty straightforward because the tertiaries are in between one primary and one secondary. So we've got yellow and green here, so yellow green will go here. And you always use the primary first to write it. And I'm going to write tertiary. And here it would be blue-green because we have blue and green. And here we would have blue-violet because we have violet and blue right here. So remember, always start with the primary color first for the name of the tertiary color. And then we have red violet here. And here we have red orange. And here we have yellow orange. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add color to the color wheel. And I don't know what kind of colored pencils you have. It doesn't really matter. You can just have a few and we can mix colors. But what's really important is when you do that is you press lightly. So let's start always with the primaries, right? We got red, yellow, and blue. Now, if you're not sure, rely on the name. The name should always be on the colored pencil. Now, sometimes there's going to be some weird names, especially like I have Prismacolors. So, you know, it might say ultramarine. All right. So they will have more interesting and unusual names. Or here, grass green, not just green, but grass green. So if you have a big pack of colors and you're not sure, test them out. Really important to test them out first before you put them on your color wheel. Okay, so we've got our red and our yellow and our blue. And I'm not gonna fill in all the way because this is a video, but I want you to fill it in, all right? So See how I'm pressing lightly? I would do that. I like to hold the pencil down like this because it can be easier to shade. So you might want to try it and see if you like it, especially if you have new pencils. Okay, so we've got our red, yellow, and our blue. Okay, those are easy. Now, let's say you don't have secondary colors. You can always mix, okay? It can be a little challenging to get the violet correct, but if you need to, you can always mix the colors. For example, obviously, for orange, you would use yellow and red, okay? So now, if you don't have orange, you can blend with the red and the yellow, okay? But press lightly, otherwise it won't work. This is actually easier to do if you have paint, but I think most of us don't have paint at home. We have colored pencils. You can't do this with crayons. They won't blend very well, or with markers. You have to do this with colored pencils or with paint. So that's a pretty good orange. It's not great. You want to press down really hard. And if that's all you have, you make it work. But if you got orange, then use it. All right, I'm just gonna go over. Use what you have. It'll be more of a challenge to make the tertiary colors. All right, so there's the orange. Okay, and then we're gonna move on now to green. So I'm gonna just use the green that I have. And violet. Okay, so now let's move on to the tertiaries. And I'm going to assume that most of you do not have tertiary colors, so we're going to have to make them. Now, you might have access to Prismacolors or other really nice colored pencils, and they'll have names that won't match up with red violet or blue green. For example, here, this blue green says aqua, light aqua, okay? But, you know, you can always test it out if you need to. And for example, here, this is called Process Red, and this is red violet, which is really nice. But like I said, not everyone's going to have access to these. So let's just take the basics and make our tertiaries. So I'll start with the green, and I'm going to mix it with blue to create the blue-green. So I'm going to I don't want to go too hard, pressing too hard. Try to keep it light. Use the side of the pencil to help you. It's kind of like shading. And then go back and get your blue. Make sure you grab your blue and not your purple. I've done that before. Not fun. And then just add a little bit of blue over that to create the blue-green. Or aqua, as some people like to call it. Okay, and now we're going to move on to blue-violet. So I'll keep my blue. Blue-violet's a little tricky to recognize. It is also called indigo. You find it on the rainbow. So there's my blue, and now I'm going to grab my violet. and create the blue violet or indigo. It's very subtle. Can't really see it that well. If that's the case, you might have to go back and add a little more. So I'm going to go back and add a little more violet in there. I'm doing it a few times. Okay. All right, so let's move on to red violet. So I'm going to grab, I'll keep my violet. And then I'm going to grab my red and go over it to create the red violet. And that looks pretty good. That's just as good as that one. So you could always go back and shade a little more, do a few layers. Okay. All right, so red, orange. So we have our red. So we use the red. Then we grab our orange and we layer it. It's very close to that. I'm going to go back, and you know, you might actually have, this pack of Crayola actually does have a red orange. You can see that. Okay, so if you have it, some packs will have a few of them. You can always use that, right? We're going to make this orange more orangey. And the red orange, more red orange. I'm going to go back and make this red darker now. Okay, so yellow orange. So obviously we need orange and yellow. So go light on that orange. It's better to start light and then always add layers if you need. Then grab your yellow. I gotta get a little stronger with that yellow. Okay, there we go. And then we've got yellow green. So we'll keep the yellow. Actually, I'm gonna start with the green. And once again, you might even have yellow green lying around. It even says yellow green. Okay. But if you don't, you can still make it. So I'm gonna try to go lighter on that green just because it's a lot more intense than the yellow. Well, it's okay. Yeah, now I'm just gonna use the yellow green. If you have it, use it. And then I'm going to go back and darken up this green. And this blue-green is very blue, so I'm going to go ahead and just add a little more green to it. Okay, so there you have your color wheel showing primary, secondary, and tertiary colors.